Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening in the market, what we can expect for this week, potentially a pretty big week. We have, things like, Amazon reporting earnings, Apple reporting earnings. I think they're both reporting on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Thursday for Amazon and Apple. Definitely some catalysts this week for sure. But, let's see how it goes. I'll give you my thoughts on the chart and what, we can expect for the next week or so, let's say. So yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., well, again, I share my thoughts with my members in my YouTube private membership section. The link is down below if you're interested. Every single day as the market is trading. Quite a lot of updates today. So definitely check it out. Options flow, etc. Mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks as well. Just $3 a month. But there is a $5 tier as well. That's the second tier, which includes NVDA as well, if you're interested. And today I did share a bunch of other updates. I talked about HIMS, I talked about Google. So anyways, I share all these thoughts. But yeah, let's jump into it. If you enjoy, you know what to do. Hit that like button. And I'm not a financial advisor in case I haven't said that. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day up, despite the volatility, only up about 0.3%, right? Pretty much flat for the day, closing just shy of $286 per share, which compared to the market, yeah, pretty flat as well. I mean, definitely had some volatility today, but for the most part, not really actually going anywhere ultimately, right? But now the question is, what happens next with Tesla stock? Well, it's an interesting spot here. It's in an interesting spot. Let's start off with the daily quickly, actually, right? The daily is interesting. The daily, if you only look at the daily, yeah, it actually doesn't look too bad. It does not look too bad. In fact, I would argue it actually looks kind of bullish overall. But there's obviously, especially when we go to the 1 hour chart, there are some, I guess, contingencies, if that makes sense. But it looks bullish with some bearishness sprinkled in. So let me explain. So why does it look bullish from the first perspective, right? Well, it looks bullish simply because, well, we broke out of this we broke out of the smaller one here, and then we broke out of this very, very, very large trend line right up here, right? That we got rejected at, before, of course. And then, of course, we had that breakout on Friday. And today, on the sell-off, back down to like, what, 273 or whatever it was. You can argue that it was just nothing more than a retest, right? You can argue this was just nothing more than a retest of that breakout, right? That's the bullish perspective. And if this actually is all she wrote, it's obviously very bullish. Now, again, you have to understand, some people sometimes get confused with a breakout. When you break out of a trend like this, a downtrend, it doesn't always mean that you have to rock it. It's not usually that simple. Sometimes it is, but it's not always the case, right? Like this case it was, of course, but it's not always that case, right? What sometimes all it means is the fact that when you get a massive breakdown, like a breakout, yeah, you could just, get a massive rocket ship, especially with a stock like Tesla, but it also could just simply mean something a little bit more simple where you're just not trending down as aggressively anymore, right? Like you don't have to just rock it up from here on out and, hey, 340 by tomorrow kind of thing. No, not necessarily, right? It just means that we're not completely and utterly tanking in a pretty aggressive fashion anymore. So we can still go sideways. We can even still go down. We can even still go down like this. It just means that we're not in an aggressive, very blatant downtrend anymore. So that is still bullish, but it doesn't necessarily mean overwhelmingly bullish to the point where it's just going to shoot up aggressive. Just keep that in mind, right? Again, you have to understand that, breakouts don't always mean that. But it's still good nonetheless. Obviously, don't get me wrong, it's still obviously good nonetheless. Now, the bad news. What's the bad news? Well, there is a chance, and this is the part where I'll get more into it on the 1 hour chart because it's easier to kind of zoom in on it and dissect it a little bit better there. But there is a chance that this was just a massive liquidity sweep. This is the thing that's making me a little bit concerned here. Now, if this is a liquidity sweep, I do think that we can go lower, potentially even closer to 260, which in that case will be essentially us trending or hugging this bottom trend line several days in a row, kind of like what Apple sort of did here, I guess you can say, roughly. How, did I have it on the thing? I think I had it like close enough, whatever. The daily chart, right? Kind of what Apple did on this red line right here. I'm going to remove this one, right? Roughly around this red line right here. This one, give or take, right? It's not drawn to perfection, but it gives a rough idea where you can see Apple, it's kind of the same idea. It broke down and then came back up to retest that, but it didn't just come back, retest a one candle and then tank. Instead, what did it do? Like almost for like a week even, right? You can see it just kind of like more or less hugged right around it and just kind of danced right below it, kind of hugging it while still slowly moving up roughly, right? So I'm saying that Tesla has the potential to do something like this. So, and this is something we'll have to watch out for potentially, right? Where Tesla, it does want to come back down and actually continue testing this trend line. This could lead it down lower, which to my lower target is around 260-ish, which again, I'll go over on the 1 hour chart, but essentially that is a possibility. And then we go up and then essentially that'll create like potential bull flag or whatever you want to call it, right? Just keep that in mind. That is a possibility. And again, this is the only reason I'm even thinking this is because of the way the price action moved today on this, what seemingly looks like to me a liquidity sweep, right? Where essentially, and I'm not gonna lie, I got caught in this a little bit today. I went in with a bullish swing. I thankfully had a very tight stop loss, so the loss was extremely small. But nonetheless, a loss is a loss, right? Where, it broke this high and it broke the 290s, etc., and it was looking great just for it to get back down under and actually close back under this level up here, which again, to me, obviously, looking at it now, it looks like a liquidity sweep, which isn't necessarily bullish. Let's just say that, right? That's not necessarily good for the bulls, right? That arguably is a little bit bearish, actually, at least for the short term. And that's one thing I'm kind of, a little bit hesitant about. So let's go to the 1 hour time frame, right? This is where we can dissect it a little bit more closely. And same idea, right? This was that high that I pointed out on the daily just now, this one right here. And this was that high that we just experienced today, right? Same idea, you can see, right? Nice little push up above this high over here. So if I put like a little line across, right? This was the high, you can see nice little push up, right? This is where everyone gets bulled up. It's like, it broke, like, to the moon, right? And then it just goes back under and it closes back under on the 1 hour, especially, or at least in this case, right? And then again, this just feels like it was a simple liquidity sweep, right? And this is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit more on the concern side. Why else am I a little bit more on the concern side here, right? And why I think this could be just nothing more than a dead cat. Like, honestly, this unironically could be a small little dead cat bounce, which again, I'll go more into why that is very soon, into one more move to the downside, which again, assuming this breaks this low here, which I think will open up a very possible test of about 260, which is that test of this breakout from down here. So let's go over each of those one by one. So had that liquidity sweep so far, right? And not ideal, essentially, right? So what happens next, right? Well, the one thing I also don't like on top of the liquidity sweep is, so you can notice that every single time it's been making higher highs, higher lows, and you can argue it's still kind of doing it, but there is a big caveat here where, it's been making these higher highs, higher lows. But you can see the pivot point from here is what made this move up here, and this what created this high here. And this whole trend over here, it never went below this recent low, the pivot that created this high, or you can even argue was this one here, but same idea. It never went below this and never went above this high while it was trending until this candle. And then because it went higher essentially on this candle, and especially right here, well, that's why we had that move to the upside, right? And then once again, what do? We came up here, came to this low here, and then we went up high here. Now this is where it gets interesting. So even if I go to the 15-minute, same idea, right? This is just more like structure. Same idea, right? You can argue that, this high was created off this pivot low down over here. Then we, of course, had this little cool off over here right on Friday. And then since this high that was recently put, ignore all this over here. Just say, look at only Friday's price action. Since this high was put over here, right, you can argue that this was the main low now to beat, or for the bulls to defend, because this was the pivot low that happened before the price went up to make a new high, right? So because this new high was created, you look at what was the previous pivot low essentially, or the swing low arguably, right? Which was here, and even if you want to be a little more generous about it, it was here. The issue is after this liquidity sweep, which, again, it looks like a liquidity sweep to me, we broke down below this low. We broke down below this low here, right? On this candle right here. So this now changes the structure. It's a break of structure, and it's not ideal, right? This is not what you want to be seeing from a bullish perspective. Because again, we went from essentially making higher highs, higher lows to now, because we made a low off of this swing low here, or this one again, same thing essentially, doesn't really matter. Because we broke it, that is it's a break of structure, it's a change of character, whatever you want to call it. The point is the fact that it changed that overall, thesis, I guess, right? Which isn't good. And now what we're getting here is instead pretty much a dead cat bounce on this very aggressive selling pressure, right? Again, take the Fibonacci, same idea. Take the Fibonacci from here to here, right to that 618 Fibonacci right here, right now. I'm just going to be looking to see how it opens tomorrow, but there's a damn good chance I'll be selling calls tomorrow at probably around market open, to be completely honest with you. And I'll go over more why soon on the 1 hour, but it's right at that 618 Fibonacci. The reason I'm waiting till tomorrow, because I want to see if we get a pre-market pump to get closer to that upper end of the Fibonacci's, which is the green ones up here, closer to 290 itself. But the way I look at it now is this, right? And this is just simple market structure for the most part. Because this low broke here, this now becomes a strong swing high, right? This essentially becomes the bearish territory, where essentially, as long as price is essentially below this high right here that we set today, which again is closer to 295, as long as the price is below that, it is now, at least for the short term, in a downtrend, right? Because again, we broke this swing low, came down, now we're coming back into it, right into the Fibonacci resistances I just showed you. And again, this becomes a bearish, like strong swing high, if you want to call it like that. So in order for the bulls to regain control, they have to break this high up here, right? Otherwise, this is essentially a bearish pivot point now, right? And it can look something along the lines of this, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. And I even told my members about that's kind of what I'm watching for. If I go all the way down here, I give like a rough outline as to what I want to see on Tesla stock, right? And I'll show you exactly where that was. I shared a lot of information, even other stocks. Yeah, this one here, right? So I'm gonna set here, this is 2 hours ago. This is roughly the path I see for Tesla in the short-ish term. This all hinges on today's high not being broken. And this, again, this was 2 hours ago. This is back when Tesla was still at 277. And look at this, right? Again, it's not drawn to perfection. The idea is just to give you the rough structure I'm looking for. And this is that kind of move up that we're getting right now, which is exactly where we are pretty much right here, right now, right? And I mentioned 286 being the main level. That's the 620 Fibonacci level, with closer to 290 being that 786, which is a possibility still. I'm not saying that's impossible. But again, this is roughly the structure and the move I'm looking for the next, I don't know, few days or however long it takes. Could be tomorrow, could be a few days, could be until the end of the week. I don't know how long it'll take. But because we have this kind of structure change, yeah, you know, there is caution to be warranted here, right? There is caution to be warranted here. And again, this all hinges on the fact that this high up here around 295 holds, right? It's just that simple. So let's go over to the 1 hour. And also, by the way, what would confirm this breakdown even further and to really make our way lower, two things, right? Two things will make me even more convinced that, you know, there's a chance we see 260. That actually becomes a possibility, right? And what is that? Number one, losing this trend line right here, you see, which is kind of like a bear flaggy trend line. Losing that, number one, which essentially, if that happens anytime tomorrow, really below 281, 282 again, yeah, that's probably going to confirm that. What will even further confirm that is breaking this low that we had right over here at around 272. Then we're even further increases the chances and the probabilities that we're coming down to these levels down here. So yeah, that's kind of what I'll be looking for moving forward for Tesla stock. Let's go over to the 1 hour chart. The final thing I want to mention is one of my personal favorite things. Like if I had to remove everything from the market and ignore pretty much everything and just use as simple as possible looking strategies, just as simplistic as I possibly can make it, as repeatable, as simplistic, no questions asked. You see it, you follow it, done. It will be this, right? Two things. Number one is, of course, this market bias, essentially the 20-day moving average. But number two, that combined with, of course, divergences essentially on the 1 hour time frame, bearish and bullish divergences, especially when it comes to if it's happening at a strong support or resistance. In this case, it is happening at a strong resistance level, which clearly is, I shouldn't even need to point it out. You can see it on the chart right here or right now. So let's just point out an example here. So you can see this price action right here that we're experiencing is extremely similar to what we experienced here. Same idea, massive push up, cool off, massive push up, cool off, back up into that range, back up into that range. Now this actually broke the high. I'm not saying we're going to break the high. I actually don't think we'll break the high, but the structure is still somewhat similar in the sense that pushed down and then we went up into that high, pushed down, went up into that recent closer to that high, again with the Fibonacci's that I just talked about. But again, the main thing I also want to point your attention to is the RSI, right? I look for these divergences on the RSI. Even the MACD starting to show a little bit of those divergences where it's also making essentially at this point equal highs. RSI, look at this, well below these levels, right? This is where the price is right now, but this is where the RSI was all the way up here, but instead it's all the way down here. So essentially it's already making a bearish divergence. It's not a strong bearish divergence, it's a medium level bearish divergence. And what would make it stronger, which is why I kind of want to see how it opens up tomorrow, is if we do move up a little bit higher and we do breach this high and we go up to, like, let's say 288 or even 290, that would be a strong bearish divergence, because then we're actually making higher highs. And when I say higher highs, I mean higher close highs, because again, RSI only cares about the candle closure, not where the price actually was. So despite it going higher here, if the price actually closes higher than really like 286 or 87, that is a bearish divergence, because that is technically, according to the RSI, a higher high, which in this case would be a bearish divergence, which is exactly the same thing that happened over here, right? Nice push up to the highs, came up to the exact same levels essentially, but the RSI made a substantially lower high, I should say, made that bearish divergence, and then we of course sold off. And this is roughly what I expect. I don't think we'll go this low, like, I don't think we're going back down to like 220s or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised, yeah, if we come back down to somewhere around here, right? That, that wouldn't shock me. So that's kind of what I'll be looking for moving forward. So those are, like, again, that's a lot of information, hopefully it made sense, but those are all the factors that I'm kind of noticing. But again, everything I explained today all hinges on the high of today holding. If the high of today breaks, ignore everything I just said, we're probably going to 310, maybe even 320. I don't think it will happen, not yet. I do think that we're most likely going to be going like something like this, and then I think we can have a good chance to going higher. But that's kind of my current thesis. The RSI on the MACD is on the verge of crossing bearish. The MACD is also creating a bearish divergence, or at least is starting to, where you can see now, right? As we went from here to here, you can see nice higher highs on the histogram on the MACD, but now pretty much equal highs, right? Again, according to, they only care about the candle closure, not the actual where the price was actually at any point of the day. They only care where the candles are closing. And now, as you can see, nowhere near the same highs, and the MACD is on the verge of crossing. So again, I'm just seeing all these factors, and this doesn't necessarily mean that it has to top right here, right now, but what it does mean to me more often than not is the fact that the sellers are starting to get exhausted the same way they got exhausted up here, same principle, bearish divergences on the RSI and the MACD, or the same way the sellers got exhausted down here, right? Bullish divergence on, of course, the MACD. Look at this, right? Lower low on the price, higher low on the MACD, lower low on the price, higher low on the RSI. And look what happened. We ended up having a reversal and we never broke that low. So again, I'm just seeing the exact same thing I'm seeing here, the exact same thing I'm seeing here, just flipped, of course, compared to this one. And now we're up here. So let's see. I took a couple L's on selling cover calls today, mainly because I really just want to see how it opens up tomorrow, because I want to see if we get that one more push up to about the 290s or not. And if we do, great. If not, then it is what it is as well. And then I'll be looking for either selling it at open or waiting until it crosses this trend line essentially, and then selling my cover calls on my shares, probably about 2 weeks out. But yeah, so again, long video, but just a lot of information to discuss, a lot of kind of just, again, I'm just trying to give you what I'm personally thinking. Again, this is just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Who knows? Nobody knows at the end of the day. Nobody has any 100% idea. We can just do with what we got. And that's kind of what I got. So yeah, let me know what you think down below. Options still pretty damn bullish, but some bearishness did come in towards the end of the day. 1.6 million put came in, but a 1.1 million call came in. So it's pretty much all over the place. I don't think anyone knows where the hell it's going for sure next, but hey, let's see how it goes. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.